Hey Internet people, welcome to episode 11 of GenTech. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about GIMP, which is a super cool free alternative to using Photoshop. So in this presentation, I'll be talking about what GIMP is, why you would want to use it, and I'll give you a quick demo of a couple of cool features that you would probably use in your day-to-day work. So as I mentioned, GIMP is a free image editor alternative to Photoshop, and it basically allows you to do a lot of the same functionality that Photoshop lets you do. So you can resize and crop images, edit images, remove backgrounds from images, change the color on things, all kinds of different stuff. And it's available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux-based systems. So why would you want to use it? Like I said, it's free. If you haven't purchased Photoshop before, Photoshop does cost quite a bit of money. With Adobe Creative Cloud's platform, which is the platform that houses Photoshop, you have to pay an annual fee to keep that software. So GIMP is a really great alternative to that whole process. GIMP is great for quick image editing, and it also works well with other free tools such as Inkscape. Inkscape, I would describe it as being a free alternative to Adobe Illustrator. So, as you would want to do for any free tools that you're using, you want to ask yourself what the catch is. So with GIMP, GIMP is an open source project, meaning that its code is freely available for people to access and to improve upon if they would like, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. It can take longer to receive updates or improvements with GIMP. And there's also less support with GIMP as well. So GIMP does have a small community, but it's definitely not as big as, say, the Photoshop community or Adobe community at large. GIMP also does not support the CMYK color format. And what that means is it does not support the print color format. So for web-based photos and icons and things like that, the color format is RGB, and for print it's CMYK. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the demo, and I'll show you guys a couple of cool things you can do with GIMP. So at first glance, if you guys have ever used Photoshop before, you will see that the layout is a little similar to Photoshop, so you get a lot of the same functionality. You have the move tool here, which allows you to move items around. The select tool, which allows you to basically kind of crop things out. So for example, they have this Eclipse select tool at the very bottom in this little pop-up window. So if you wanted to create like a circular frame around something, that's what you would use that tool for. They also have the free select tool, which is a lot like the lasso tool in Photoshop. You have this fuzzy select tool, cropping, all kinds of different tools here for you. They also have this text tool, so you can create text on your images if you want to do that. What I'm going to do is just take an image and just do a couple of different things with it. So this is one of my family's older images that I found. If I want to zoom in on this image, I can actually do at the bottom here where it says 33%, I can click on this little drop down and zoom in further. So I can see a little bit more of the detail. Of course, you can continue to zoom in if you would like, but I am going to keep it at 50%. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do with this image is actually crop it out. At the top, I have a little bit of an error here from when I originally scanned this image, so I'd like to get that out of there. So to crop, you want to go to this kind of square logo or icon here, and then just check your settings. So make sure that all of these things are unchecked. I'm just going to leave this highlight alone, and I'm going to click the left key on my mouse and just drag it over what I want to crop. Now if I need to, I can also adjust it just by going to the different sides of the shape that I'm creating. Okay, I think that looks good. Actually, let me go ahead and drag a little bit under that. I can go ahead and press the Enter key on the keyboard, and it's cropped that out for me. Now, if I notice that there are pieces that I still want to crop out, for example, I've got this little border at the bottom here making an L shape, I can do another crop and do the same thing. Press the Enter key on the keyboard. So that looks pretty good. And from there, if I wanted to make the image smaller, I could go to Image and Scale Image, and then change the size of it. So right now it's telling me the file name of the image, the current width and height, and the current resolution. So really, I only care about this image size feature. So instead of a width of 900, maybe I'll say I want this to just be 500. If I click in the second box, it's going to automatically adjust that based on the ratio of that image size. If I want to change the format of the image size to a different weight, I can. So instead of pixels, maybe I want to choose inches or centimeters or something like that. I could do that. But I'm okay with pixels because this is just going to be a digital image. So I can click Scale, and it may take a moment, but it did resize it for me. And if I want to, from there I can go to File, Export As, and then save it wherever I want to save it. So currently it's being saved as a JPEG image, but if I want to change that file type, I can click Select File Type, and they have a whole bunch of different formats here. So if I scroll down, I can see all kinds, like a GIF. They also have PNGs. If you do have Photoshop or have access to Photoshop, you can save it as a Photoshop image file. And they also have TIFF as well. So it kind of just depends on what image format you want. For my purposes, I'm just going to leave it as a JPEG and just rename it to something else. And then I'll click Export. They ask you for some additional options to set. So if you want to increase the quality of the image, you can click and drag this. Granted, if you do increase the quality of the image, it is going to make that file size larger. So just keep that in mind if you have any file size limitations. For the rest of the stuff, I think this is asking about metadata. So you can leave those settings if you would like. They also have some additional advanced options, so you can feel free to play around with those too. And I'm just going to go ahead and click Export. And so then it tells me that it's been saved. Now I can also do other things to this image if I want to as well. I'm going to actually do Control-Z, which basically does an undo. If you don't want to use the keyboard to undo, you can go to Edit and click Undo whatever your last action was. So I just made the image its original size again. I'm going to add some text. So to do that, I can click on this A icon here, and I can click and drag where I want to put that text. So it creates a box for me. It gives me this little pop-up window here to choose the font as well as the font size of my text. So if I wanted to change the font, I can start typing and then it'll come up. And then for the font size, I'll just turn it down to like 45. And then in the box, I can start typing. So maybe I want to say two people posing for photo. So as you can see, it did not keep my font. That's perfectly fine. I can go back and just retype it. And it didn't keep my size, so I can just go back and change that. And I'll actually make that a little bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see. There we go. Now I can change the color of this. All I have to do is go to the settings over here on the left and choose whatever color I want. So maybe I want this color to be white. I can just click in this little area here and choose my color. I can also go down this little column of rainbow colors and choose my color from here as well. Now, if you know the hex code for your color, you can enter that here. And the hex code is basically the notation that's typically used in web design to indicate specific colors. So you don't have to know it, but if you do, you can put it here. You can also use this eyedropper tool to choose from whatever source you have available and find that color. So for example, maybe, even though this is a black and white image, I could click on, say, the man's hand right here and choose that exact color. And so it's giving me this kind of tan color here. But for this image, I actually want a white color. And so I just clicked and dragged it all the way to the top here. And I'm going to click OK. Now, just like Photoshop, GIMP does have different layers. So you can choose whether or not you want those layers to be on. Essentially, layers contain specific objects related to the image. So if you've opened up one image in GIMP, it creates one layer. Since I not only opened the image, but I also created a text box, it's created another layer for that text. And the way layers work is whatever is on top is what is essentially going to be on top of the actual image. So here I have my text images on top, but if I click and drag it to the bottom, it goes behind the photo image that I've imported because that's at the top here. I'm going to click and drag it back up because I actually want people to be able to see the text. You can also hide layers. So if I want to hide the text, I can click on that eye icon to do so. Same thing goes for the actual photo. Now, another cool thing that you can do with GIMP is you can actually duplicate layers. So to do that, you right click on whatever layer you want to duplicate and click duplicate layer. And you can actually apply all kinds of different effects to it. So if I want to change the mode of the image, currently it's set to normal, which means that it's just coming in as I've opened the image. It's at its basic format. If I click on normal, I can choose from a variety of different format settings. And here, I think I'm going to do multiply, which basically just multiplies the colors and concentrates them a little bit more. So as you can see, it's a little bit darker here, so the text stands out a little bit more. The man is quite dark here, so you can't really see him as well. And the woman's face comes up a little bit clearer. If you do screen, that does kind of the opposite. It kind of whitewashes out the image, so now we can't really see the text as well, but you can see the man better, and you can't see the woman's dress as well. You can also apply opacity. So currently the opacity is set to 100, which means you can see the full image and there's no transparency applied to that image. To change it, I can click on that number and type it. So if I want to change the opacity to maybe 30%, I can type it and press enter. And that screen effect is now only 30% available or present in the image. So to see what I mean a little bit better, if I hide this original layer, this is the one that I've changed the opacity on. So as you can see, it's much more transparent. Now, if I don't like the setting that I've applied to this portion of the image, I can always delete the layer by right-clicking and clicking delete layer in that menu. There are also a bunch of other filters that you can apply to your images that you bring in, such as blur effects, enhancements. You can add in different artistic effects. So maybe I want to apply cubism to this photo. It'll give me a preview of what it looks like, and I can make changes in this window here. I don't want to actually apply that effect, but there's a lot of really cool effects that you can apply to your different images. So for example, I could even add in a coffee stain if I want to. But yeah, it just kind of depends on what you want to apply to your images. And you find those filters by going to the filters menu at the top of the screen here. If you're ever unsure of what filters you've used before on this image, you can always go to the recently used option and see those features there. Now, there are all kinds of different things that you can do in GIMP. I would highly suggest that you check out various tutorials online to see some of the more complex things that you can do in it, but this just gives you a quick preview of some things that you may want to do with some of your family history photos. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you like what you saw and you learned a lot, definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel, Olivia Peacock. Give me a like, give me some comments, ask me questions, and I'll be happy to help. Until next time.